Welcome to the video for 4.3 Solving Quadratic Equations by Factoring. We are going to do this actually over 2 days. So homework up here, you're going to have worksheet 1 and worksheet 2. I'm going to do the whole set of notes in 2 videos. Part 1 will be page 1, part 2 will be page 2. The next thing that we got is we have some zero product property. The product of two values equaling 0, meaning one or the other needs to be equal to 0. So in the equation, when we factor things out and we're going to be solving, we need to look at the two parts, both equaling 0. So you have x plus 3 equal to 0 and x minus 5 equal to 0. Set either one equal to 0 and you'll get your two solutions. So instead of solving by graphing, where we would get our two zeros and then say x equals this and x equals this, we're going to now actually factor them out. So the first part is we are given our solutions. We're going to write our equation out in standard form. Standard form, just like we did with linear equations, means no fractions. And we're going to want to write it out into ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. So starting this out, we have the answer of x equals negative 8 and x equals 5. Moving these both over so I can get zeros, I have x plus 8 equals 0, minus 5 equals 0. So these would be two binomials if multiplied times each other. X plus 8, x minus 5 equals 0. We're going to multiply these out, distribute. So we would have x squared minus 5x plus 8x minus 40 equals 0, combining like terms, x squared plus 3x minus 40 equals 0. The next one, we're going to do either one of these. I'm just going to do one of them. So here, if I had x equals 3/2 and x equals 1/4, to undo the dividing of 2 and dividing of 4, I would multiply them. So I would have 2x equals 3, 4x equals 1. So my binomial becomes 2x minus 3 and 4x minus 1 equals 0. Multiplying that out, you would get 8x squared minus 2x minus 12x, and 3 times negative 1 is a plus 3 equals zeros. 8x squared minus 14x plus 3 equal to 0. So the quick way, which is really cool, is whatever's in the denominator goes in the front. So you have a numerator, denominator. And what happens is you would have denominator come to the front minus numerator. So whatever you see, take the negative and tie it to the numerator. So this would be really negative 5/2 versus a negative 5 divided by 2. It's not in front of the equation, it's on top with the numerator. So it was just a value. So opposite of positive would be a negative. So this first one's going to be a negative. This is a negative, so it's going to be a positive inside, because when we worked backwards over here with both of these solving ones, whatever we had originally, it became the opposite inside the bracket. So the denominator will get tagged in front with the x. Numerator goes here. So this would be a 2x plus 5. Multiply these out, you get 6x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 10 equal to 0, because this equals 0. Simplify, 6x squared plus 11x minus 10 equals 0. Okay, so the next part we have is factoring. I'm going to do a few of these. I'm going to do this in the method of what I call broker's method. It's a legal method. It is where we drop down the front variable numerical value, so the a value in front, and then I don't have to factor. I force my factors. The other video you will find on YouTube will have the box method. So first, before you factor anything, you got to ask yourself, you have greatest common factors. This is a 35, this is a 15. They both have x, so I'm going to pull out a 5x. Leaves me with a 7x minus 3. If I re-multiplied this out, I would get this value. So 5x times 7x is 35x squared. 5x times a negative 3 is negative 15x. I can't factor the inside of the parentheses any further, so I'm done with that one. This one here, because your a value is 1, you really can just drop down to your factors of x and x. Pull down the 1 in front of those. But what I'm going to do is I always do timesing, which is a times c on the top and b on the bottom, which adds to be b. So 1 times 32 is going to be 32. That adds up to be a negative 12. So what are the factors that multiply to get me a positive 32 that add up to be a negative 12? Well, those factors would be negative 8 and negative 4. Multiply them, positive 32. Add them, negative 12. So these two factors I just drop in here. I can't simplify these any further, so I'm done. Jumping down here to this one here. So using the method here, once again, a times c. This is a, this is b, this is c. If it's not in the correct order, rewrite it. That add up to be b. So b value is 7. 2 times negative 30 is a negative 60. So what are the factors of negative 60 that add up to be 7? Try some out. You're going to get to 12 and 5. They got to be multiplying to get negative, so one's positive, one's negative. They need to add to be a positive 7, so the 12 needs to be positive, 5 needs to be negative. So what I know in my factoring is that this back number is going to be a 12, and this back number is going to be a negative 5. I write mine left to right. What I do, instead of guessing which one has the 2 and which one does not, what I like to do is just drop the 2 in front. So I have x's here. So originally when I start, I had this. And what I do is I take that 2 and I drop it into the front of both of the x's. What I do now is I look to see if I have the greatest common factor. This greatest common factor here is 1, so I don't need to simplify anything. This one has 2's, so I'm going to divide these by 2. So since I did not change the back one, just drops down, this becomes x plus 6. Now, when I multiply 6 times negative 5, I get negative 30. X times 2x is 2x, and doing 12 and a negative 5 get me a 7x. The biggest thing you need to remember is what happens when you have something that can't be factored. This is factor by grouping. Yes, you will need to do this on the test and or quiz. I cannot remember both, but it doesn't matter. You need to know how to factor by grouping. So when you factor by grouping, you have 4 terms. We kind of do that over here, but it's just done in a different way. What I would like to do is look at this as this. So if I have 4 terms, I want to factor by grouping. What can I factor out? Well, in this first group, I have a 18 and a negative 3 and an x squared and an x. So I know I can pull a 3x out. So that leaves me 6x minus 1. This back group, I have a 24x and a minus 4. And so they both share a 4. So I'm going to put a plus 4 here. And that leaves me with a 6x minus 1. Now when you're factoring by grouping, what you're doing is you put this in a new set of groups. And we're looking for a common factor between these guys. This new group gives me a new set of parentheses that it has 6x minus 1 in both of them. So that would be the common factor I'm going to pull out. Once I pull 6x minus 1 out of this, I'm left with a 3x in the front. And on this part here, I'm left with a plus 4. Once again, factor by grouping is when you have 4 terms and you need to figure it out, as in what can you pull out of all 4 groups, because you will get a question that says, can you factor this or not? Before you say you cannot, you need to try factor by grouping. That's that one. I want to say there's another one on the practice quiz, so let me see here real quick. Factor form. There is not on there right now, but I will double check and make sure that we have some more practice with those. I might add some to problems on Friday with your imaginary numbers. So just make sure you work on that. That's the first half of the video.